And please welcome Vice President Marketing and Strategy, IBM Security, Caleb Barlow.
Security breaches make national news almost every day. Over 1 billion records stolen on an annual basis. Credit card numbers, healthcare records, your personal information up for sale to the highest bidder. You know what? Let's try a little experiment. Can we turn up the house lights for a second? Okay, raise your hand and hold them up there if you have been a victim of cybercrime through the loss of your credit card information, your healthcare record, or other data breach. Just look around the room and think of all of that information that's been stolen. So who's behind this? Is this bored teenagers in hoodies? Maybe. Activists? Potentially. Nation states? Well, sometimes. But the reality is that 80% of it comes from networks of incredibly well-educated thieves that collaborate to steal your intellectual property, your business capital, damage businesses, and control free speech, and ultimately take your money. This is about organized crime at an epic scale. And the massive ascent of cybercrime makes it worthy of a business school study in terms of organization, productivity, and return on investment. In fact, it is now one of the world's largest economies, with $445 billion in annual illegal profits. But how does all this work? How do these bad guys organize their attacks? How do they sell, and where do they sell all these records? Well, it all starts with the incredible collaboration of bad people, organized to make huge profits. Today's cybercrime rings, they collaborate and share expertise on a global scale via something called the dark web. Now, this is a term used to describe the anonymous internet, where identity masking tools enable criminals to operate without detection. In fact, let's bring up our threat researcher from that NBC News clip. He's going to share his expertise and elaborate on cybercrime and the dark web. Let's welcome IBM Security Executive Security Advisor, Etay Maor. All right, Etay, you've made a career tracking people down on the dark web. What is the dark web, and how does it work?
Well, Caleb, you have to keep in mind that today's cyber criminals are very sophisticated. They collaborate, they share information, they share tools, and they have experts in different fields. So it's just like when you're building a house. You have the general contractor, but he doesn't really do all the work. He has subcontractors, people who do the plumbing, people who do the electricity. Same goes for cybercrime. You have experts in different fields. And when you go on the dark web, you can hire these guys. People who create phishing attacks, people who create malware, or just others who will sell data. In fact, it's that data from those large data breaches that we read about that finds itself the way to the dark web. And when the criminals, when they have that data, that's when they start to actually make money.
So the bad guys have a marketplace to sell what they steal, with ratings and reviews and accolades, just like we'd see in any other marketplace. But Etay, what is all this stuff worth?
Well, a credit card today is worth about $1 in the dark net. When you're talking about social security numbers, well, the price goes up to about $15. When you're talking about healthcare records, it goes to $60 or more. Criminals love healthcare data for a couple of reasons. First of all, the data in healthcare records doesn't change. Your blood type, it's not going to change. Your social security number, it's never going to change. And they use that data for a lot of different types of attacks. They can use that data to buy medical devices, to buy drugs, to forge tax returns, or just to create a new identity. And they do this, and they buy this data using bitcoins, because it is bitcoins that allow them to do the transactions in the anonymous way. Now, you combine bitcoins, the anonymity for the transaction, and the anonymity that the dark web provides for communication, and you have the perfect market, one that protects both the buyer and the seller.
So, Etay, you saw all those hands go up in the audience, and honestly, it looked like it was about half the audience just raising their hands. How can IBM help protect users and enterprises from these types of attacks?
Well, what we do at IBM Security is we have a lot of threat researchers, and they collect threat intelligence data from around the world, collected all the time in real time, and then they analyze it. How do cybercriminals think? How they work? What tools do they have? They reverse engineer the technologies that the criminals have to understand it and then create countermeasures. And then these security measures are pushed to over 270 million protected devices worldwide. So we protect our customers with no actually additional actions that have to be performed from the customer itself.
All right. Well, Etay, thanks for joining us and sharing that perspective on the dark web. All right, everyone. Well, we're all in this together. How do we fight back against this onslaught? You know, one way is with the expertise provided by the researchers that Etay talked about. In fact, although we're only roughly 4 years old at IBM Security, we have 7,300 security professionals worldwide, including over 1,000 that we added in the last year. So if you're a cybersecurity researcher, we've got jobs. But it takes more than people. Think of the security challenge being like that of an immune system. All of these separate security capabilities being brought together to find and stop the attacks. Did you know that on average, the attackers are inside a network for over 250 days before they're discovered? Now think about that. Attackers inside your network, your organization, your laptop for 6 months before anyone notices. That is why we put analytics at the center of this immune system approach. We call this security intelligence, and it provides us the visibility to identify threat actors across your entire enterprise, in the data center, on the cloud, on mobile devices. And just as organizations are starting to use cognitive technology to gain new insights, we're beginning to use cognitive to power security systems that can understand, that can reason, and that can learn, to help solve those security challenges in new ways. And you know, it's not just about detecting attacks. We have to infuse security into every layer of the cloud that we've been talking about for the last 2 days. When you log into the cloud, when you move workloads to the cloud, when you compose new cloud apps, when you build those public cloud applications, when you store data in the cloud, security must be wrapped around everything that you do. Now, when it comes to the IBM cloud, well, I've got some good news. IBM Security is already there with encryption, data security, and security intelligence built in by design. Now, IBM is already the largest hybrid cloud company in the world. But you may be surprised to know that even after just 4 short years, IBM Security is the largest enterprise security company in the world. Now, let me leave you with a final thought. As Etay described, criminals are collaborating. We all need to as well, because we're all in this together. You know, if we share data, threat data, openly, freely between governments, enterprises, and most importantly, cybersecurity companies, our competition, you know, we've had to take a major step forward here. We've opened up 700 terabytes of threat information accumulated over 20 years, tens of thousands of client engagements, including actionable intelligence that hit our sensor array, one of our security operations centers, only moments ago. We've put all of that data, all of that intelligence up on the web for free because we believe firmly that the only way we solve this problem together is if we democratize the data. We want cyber criminals to ask a question. You know, when they're thinking of all the money they put into building that latest attack, and we stop it in hours. Was it worth the investment to build it in the first place? You see, this is about changing the economics for the bad guys, and we can only do that if we all work together. So go there, share it, collaborate, share what you know and tell your peers. Become part of the solution. Because you know what? If we all stand together with threat information at speed, we can outthink the attackers.